Hi there. So today I want to pick a card from my Spirit Speaks deck that I created. And it's actually 5 decks in one. And if you pull a card from each of the 5 decks, it actually creates a really cool message from Spirit. But it's not just a cool message, it's a very powerful way for us to look at our limits, our limiting belief systems, and actually start to do some work to dissolve them. And I'm really excited about this because I'm starting to teach workshops and do Zoom calls that are going to specifically be focused on us doing the inner work to help us dissolve those strong habit patterns and belief systems that we have that are pulling us out of our joy and pulling us out of our divine purpose that I believe we all have. So the point of this deck is to show us, highlight a pattern that we are trapped in, that we are reacting from, and to tell us what it's getting in the way of. Then in the 4th deck, it gives us a practical action. And in the 5th deck, it just gives us this beautiful message from Spirit. So, what I used to try to do is sit down and do one of these full sessions in 10 minutes. And I actually found that that was way. This work is just so deep and so powerful that to do it in 10 minutes is just really taking the beauty away from it. So what I've decided to do is actually just pick one card from the five card message and talk about that, and just do it piece by piece and a little bit slower. And like I said, on my weekly Zoom calls and in my workshops, we're going to be diving in a lot deeper and getting to the root of these messages. So the one card that I want to talk about, this is from deck 2, and this is our patterns. And the pattern that we're talking about actually is shame. And it's interesting because I pulled that card today and I'm like, I don't really feel like I'm stuck in a lot of shame. I don't really feel like I'm ashamed of very much anymore. That doesn't seem like a card that really applies to me. And when I sat down to make this video, or my first video today, I started talking about the depression that I suffered with through most of my adult life. And I was sharing just how deep and how dark it was. And I didn't even share in the video that I was suicidal for most of that, or a lot of the time, that I had gotten to a point where I was cutting myself, that I was just in such a dark place. I didn't know what to do with all of the rage and the anger that was stored inside of me, and it was flying out all over the fucking place. I was overreacting so much, but also, just in these patterns of like laying on the floor, praying to die, not wanting to live a life that just seemed to have no meaning at all. So when I was making the video, it really dawned on me, like, of course I have shame. Of course I'm ashamed of some of the things that I used to do because I didn't want to live anymore. So I just want to speak. It feels like my light just got like really bright just now. Um, anyway, I just want us to really sit with, what are we ashamed of? And one really, really huge thing that I've been talking a lot about is getting it out of our system. When we have these limits and these negative belief systems and these thought patterns stored, it's stuck in our bodies. It's stuck on the receptors in our cells, which, if you study Chinese medicine, you will see that depending on the emotional state that it's bringing you in, or that it's keeping you in, it stores on different receptors, different organs, different body parts, and it affects different parts of your body. And I find it very, very interesting. And so it affects us physically, it affects us emotionally, it affects us mentally, And when we work on the spiritual level, that's actually the level that will help to heal it all. So when we have shame stuck, it's stuck somewhere in our body. And our job with everything that we're working with, and I believe that it's our job every day to do some inner work and find these habit patterns, these belief systems, these thought patterns that are holding us in these limits, that are keeping us in this state of lack and fear. So, really sit with it today. Get that shame out, meaning have a good, honest conversation with somebody you love and trust, or journal it, or sit and talk to the divine, whatever that is to you. Some people call it God. Sit by a tree and talk to a tree. It doesn't matter what you call it, it doesn't matter how you see it. What matters is that you connect to it and express to it. Express with it, I don't know. But we need to express this shit out. One of my friends that I did a podcast with the other day said that the opposite of depression is actually expression. So if we're expressing ourselves openly and honestly, that means that we're getting these pent up emotions out. If it's not out, it's in. So that means we're stuck with these emotions. It's eating us from the inside out. And like I said, it affects us physically, it affects us mentally, it affects us emotionally. And what it does is it does affect us spiritually because it gets in our way of connecting to spirit. So, how this works is we have these belief systems, like I said, these thought patterns. That is what creates our emotions, but it's all subconscious. Like, we don't know the thoughts that we're thinking. We don't know the things that we're believing. And that is why I think it's so powerful and so beautiful to be able to do this work every day. And yes, meditation is powerful. And yes, being in the moment is powerful. But I feel like there's a lot more involved where we actually have to start to do exercises together where we are getting it out of our system. We're facing it. We're facing what makes us afraid in our lives, but in our minds and in our hearts and in our bodies. And when we start to do these things every day, that is when we start to feel differently. That is when we start to think differently. That is when we start to act differently. And also, that is when we start to see everything in our life shifting and changing. I will tell you, I will promise you, if there is somebody in your life that needs your help, do your inner work and they will fucking shift. I've seen it in my life so many times. I no longer question it. If there is somebody in my life that is struggling, I do more of my own inner work and I let myself let go of any of my controlling ways. I stop trying to control that person and what is happening with them. I work every day to not worry about them. I allow the divine to hold them. And what that does is it takes it out of my system, which means I am actually present for the people in my life as opposed to being afraid for them or trying to control them or judging them or whatever it may be. It is much harder than it sounds, but it is much, much, much more important than it sounds. I feel like it's the time on the planet where we all get to be good and serious about making changes in our lives. And in order to make these changes, we need to stop doing everything that we're doing and putting our inner healing abso-fucking-lutely first. Whatever it is, whatever it takes. And I've done this, with my own healing. After my first cancer journey, I was diagnosed with severe depression and severe anxiety. I just said it in my last video. And I said, I will do whatever the fuck it takes to heal this shit. I didn't know it could be done, but it can because I did it. And I haven't had depression since. I felt anxious, but anxiety did not consume me even through a much worse cancer and losing my mom. So